They have not spoken a single word to each other in 14 years. Not because they are angry. Not because they have nothing to say. But because after 58 years of marriage, Ibrahim and Safia discovered something that most couples never learn. That true intimacy exists in the spaces between words, in the glances that carry entire conversations, in the touch of a hand that says more than 1,000 declarations of love. At 59 degrees Celsius, in a mud brick compound that has not seen a visitor in over 3 years, two people in their late 80s have created a language that requires no sound. And what I witnessed during my time with them convinced me that everything I thought I knew about communication, about connection, about the nature of love itself, was incomplete. This is not a story about silence. This is a story about what happens when two souls become so intertwined that speaking becomes unnecessary, almost redundant. And it begins with a question that Ibrahim asked me the moment I arrived, the first words he had spoken aloud in years. Do you know how to listen to what is not said? I found Ibrahim and Safia through a series of coincidences that felt, in retrospect, like destiny. I had been researching isolated communities in the deep Sahara, documenting the lives of those who had chosen, or been forced, to exist at the margins of human civilization. A nomadic trader mentioned them in passing, describing an elderly couple who lived so far from anything that even the most experienced desert travelers avoided their region. They are strange, he warned me. They do not speak. Not to visitors, not to each other. Some say they have gone mad from the solitude. Others say they have found something that the rest of us are too busy to discover. The warning intrigued me more than it deterred me. In my years of research, I had encountered many forms of human adaptation to extreme circumstances, but a couple who had abandoned speech entirely was something new. I pressed the trader for more details, their location, their history, anything that might explain their unusual way of life. He was reluctant at first, protective of people he seemed to regard with a mixture of awe and superstition. But eventually, he relented, drawing a rough map in the sand and warning me that the journey would be dangerous. If you die out there, he said matter-of-factly, no one will find your body for years. Perhaps ever. The sand swallows everything eventually. I thank him for his encouragement and set out the next morning. The journey to their compound took 3 days. The first day was relatively straightforward, following tracks that other vehicles had made over the years. The second day, those tracks disappeared, and I was navigating purely by compass and GPS, neither of which inspired complete confidence in such a remote location. By the third day, the sand had become too soft and deep for tires, forcing me to abandon my vehicle and continue on foot, carrying as much water as I could manage. When I finally arrived, dehydrated and exhausted, I was greeted by a sight that stopped me in my tracks. Ibrahim was sitting outside their home, his weathered face turned toward the horizon, his eyes closed against the brutal sun. He was ancient, there was no other word for it, his skin like leather that had been folded and refolded countless times, his white beard reaching nearly to his chest. Safia was beside him, equally aged, her hand resting on his knee with the casual intimacy of decades-long habit. Her own gaze was fixed on something I could not see, something beyond the dunes, perhaps beyond this world entirely. They were motionless, almost statue-like, and for a terrifying moment I thought they were dead. Two bodies preserved by the dry heat, frozen in their final positions, a monument to the love they had shared. Then Ibrahim opened his eyes, looked directly at me with unsettling precision, and asked his question about listening to what is not said. His voice was rough from disuse, the words emerging slowly as if he had to remember how to form them. But his eyes were sharp, alert, filled with an intelligence that belied his apparent age. I told him I did not know how to listen to silence. He nodded as if this was the answer he expected. Then you will learn, he said. Or you will leave without understanding anything. Those are the only two possibilities. I chose to learn. The compound itself was modest, 3 structures arranged around a central courtyard, all built from mud bricks that had been repaired so many times that they seemed to be more patched than original material. A well-occupied one corner, its depth invisible in the shadows. A small garden struggled for life in another corner, protected from the worst of the sun by a makeshift shade structure. And everywhere, the sand, creeping in through every crack, accumulating in corners, a constant reminder that the desert was merely tolerating their presence. Safia rose when I approached, moving with a grace that seemed impossible for someone of her age. She looked at me for a long moment, her eyes searching mine for something I could not identify. Then she nodded once, apparently satisfied, and gestured toward the main structure. She had not spoken a word. She would not speak a word during my entire stay. But somehow, I understood exactly what she meant. You are welcome here. Come inside. Rest. Ibrahim and Safia were married in 1966, in a ceremony that brought together two families who had been rivals for generations. Their union was intended to be political, a strategic alliance that would end decades of conflict over water rights and trading territories. Neither Ibrahim nor Safia had any say in the arrangement. They met for the first time on their wedding day, two strangers bound together by the decisions of fathers who saw them as bargaining chips rather than human beings. I hated him at first. Safia communicated to me through a complex system of gestures that I gradually learned to interpret. Her hands moved with precision, each motion carrying specific meaning, a vocabulary developed over decades of silent communication. Not because of who he was, but because of what he represented. My freedom, taken. My choices, eliminated. My future, determined by men who did not care what I wanted. Ibrahim, translating her gestures into words for my benefit, nodded in agreement. His voice grew stronger with use, as if the act of speaking was awakening dormant muscles. And I resented her, he admitted. She was beautiful, yes, the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. But beauty means nothing when it comes wrapped in obligation. I wanted to choose my own wife. I wanted love to be a discovery, not a mandate. Their first years together were marked by cold politeness. They fulfilled their obligations, sharing a home, working together to build a life, eventually producing 3 children who would grow up sensing the distance between their parents but never fully understanding it. They spoke when necessary, cooperated when required, and spent their private moments in separate corners of their compound. 2 strangers sharing space but nothing else. We were roommates, Ibrahim said. Efficient, functional roommates who happened to be legally bound to each other. I thought this was what marriage was. I thought this was all it could ever be. The change began in their 15th year of marriage, triggered by a tragedy that nearly destroyed them both. Their youngest child, a daughter named Amira, died of a fever that swept through the region during an unusually harsh summer. She was 7 years old, a bright, curious child who had inherited her mother's beauty and her father's stubborn determination. Medical help was too far away to make any difference. Ibrahim and Safia could only watch as their daughter's life slipped away over the course of 3 agonizing days, powerless to save her, powerless to do anything but hold her small body and pray for a miracle that never came. I remember the sound she made at the end, Ibrahim said, his voice barely audible. A small sigh, like she was finally resting after a long journey. And then silence. The worst silence I have ever known. Grief does strange things to people. Sometimes it drives them apart, each person retreating into their own pain, unable or unwilling to share the burden. But sometimes, rarely, preciously, it creates a bond that nothing else could have forged. In their shared devastation, Ibrahim and Safia finally saw each other clearly for the first time. I looked at him across Amira's grave, Safia gestured, her movements slow and heavy with remembered sorrow. And I saw that his pain was my pain. His tears were my tears. We had lost the same thing. And suddenly, all the resentment, all the distance, all the years of cold politeness, none of it mattered. We were 2 people drowning in the same ocean. The only way to survive was to hold on to each other. From that moment forward, their marriage transformed. They began talking, really talking, sharing thoughts and fears and dreams that they had kept hidden for 15 years. They discovered that beneath the resentment and obligation, there were 2 people who were remarkably compatible. They had similar values, similar humor, similar ways of seeing the world. The arranged marriage that both had viewed as a prison gradually became a partnership, then a friendship, then something deeper. We fell in love backwards, Ibrahim explained. Most couples start with passion and hope that companionship will follow. We started with nothing, less than nothing, and built our way up to a love that I would not trade for anything in this world or the next. Their remaining children grew and left, drawn to cities and opportunities that the desert could not provide. Ibrahim and Safia remained, growing older together, their bond deepening with each passing year. They developed private jokes that no one else could understand, shared references to events that only they remembered, a complete history that belonged to them alone. By their 40th anniversary, they had developed an understanding so complete that they could often anticipate each other's thoughts before they were expressed. Ibrahim would begin preparing tea moments before Safia realized she wanted some. Safia would move toward Ibrahim's side just as he began to feel the ache of loneliness. They were becoming, gradually, extensions of each other, two separate bodies housing what increasingly felt like a single consciousness. And then, gradually, they stopped speaking altogether. It was not a decision, Ibrahim told me. It was an evolution. One day, I realized that I had not spoken aloud in a week. I had not needed to. Safia understood everything I wanted to communicate through a glance, a touch, a shift in posture. And I understood her the same way. Words had become unnecessary, almost intrusive. Safia nodded, her hands adding nuance to his explanation. Speaking began to feel like explaining something to someone who already knew. Redundant. Wasteful. Why say I love you when a touch on the cheek conveys the same thing more purely? Why ask how are you feeling when I can see it in his eyes? We did not abandon language. We transcended it. For 14 years, they had lived in this state of wordless communion. Their days were structured around routines so familiar that coordination required no discussion. When one needed help, the other sensed it and responded. When one was sad, the other provided comfort without being asked. When one was joyful, the joy was shared instantly, transmitted through some invisible connection that I could not see but could definitely feel. I spent 2 weeks with Ibrahim and Safia, observing their silent life, trying to understand the miracle of their communication. At first, I felt like an intruder, my questions requiring Ibrahim to drag himself back into the world of spoken language, disrupting the peaceful flow of their existence. But gradually, they accommodated my presence, incorporating me into their rhythms without losing their essential connection. I noticed how Safia would tilt her head slightly when she wanted Ibrahim's attention, and how he would respond instantly, turning toward her as if pulled by a magnetic force. I saw how he would adjust his pace during their morning walks to match the slight stiffness in her joints that day, without any visible signal passing between them. I watched them prepare meals together in perfect coordination, each knowing exactly what the other would need before the need arose. Their meals were simple: flatbread baked on hot stones, dates from 3 ancient palms that somehow survived the brutal conditions, tea brewed from herbs that Safia cultivated in her tiny garden. They ate slowly, savoring each bite, sharing portions without discussion or negotiation. Watching them was like watching a dance choreographed over decades, every movement purposeful and perfectly timed. "You are beginning to see," Ibrahim said one evening, breaking his silence for my benefit. "The secret is not about reading minds. It is about paying attention. Most people are so consumed with their own thoughts, their own words, their own needs, that they never truly observe the person in front of them. Safia and I have spent 58 years observing each other. Every expression, every gesture, every subtle change in breathing or posture, we have catalogued them all. We know each other completely, and in that complete knowing, words become superfluous." Their living conditions were harsh by any standard. The temperature regularly exceeded 59 degrees during the hottest parts of the day. Their water supply was limited to what they could draw from an ancient well that produced less each year. They had no electricity, no modern medicine, no communication with the outside world except for the rare nomad who passed through their region. And yet, they were content. More than content, they were at peace in a way that I had never witnessed in any couple, regardless of their circumstances. "People in cities think they need things to be happy," Ibrahim mused during one of our conversations. "Big houses, fast cars, important jobs, endless entertainment. They fill their lives with noise and activity and still feel empty inside. Safia and I have nothing. Less than nothing, by their standards. But we have each other. We have complete understanding. We have love that does not require constant affirmation because it simply is, like the sand beneath our feet or the sun above our heads. What more could anyone want?" One afternoon, I watched Ibrahim care for Safia during a bout of pain that seemed to come from nowhere. Without any visible cue, he was beside her, his hands gentle on her shoulders, guiding her to a cooler spot in the shade. He prepared a compress from wet cloth, pressed it to her forehead, sat with her until the worst had passed. Throughout the entire episode, not a word was spoken, not a request for help, not an expression of concern, not an acknowledgement of gratitude. Everything was communicated through touch, through presence, through the silent language they had perfected. "Does it ever frustrate you?" I asked him later. "The silence? Do you ever miss the sound of her voice?" He considered the question carefully. "Her voice lives in my memory," he said finally. "I hear it every day, even though she does not speak. When I read her gestures, I hear the words she would have used. When she touches my face, I hear the endearment she used to whisper. The silence is not empty. It is full of everything we have ever said to each other, echoing forever. On my final day with them, I witnessed something that crystallized everything I had been observing. It was late afternoon, the heat beginning to relent as the sun approached the horizon. Ibrahim and Sophia were sitting outside their home, as they did every day at this time, watching the colors change across the desert sky. They were holding hands, a simple gesture that carried decades of meaning. The sunset that evening was extraordinary, the sky transforming through shades of orange and pink and purple that seemed almost artificial in their intensity. Ibrahim and Sophia watched in silence, their bodies leaning slightly toward each other, their breathing synchronized in a rhythm I had come to recognize. As the sun touched the distant dunes, Sophia turned to Ibrahim. Without words, without gestures, with nothing but a look, she communicated something that made his eyes fill with tears. He squeezed her hand, nodded slowly, and brought her fingers to his lips. I did not know what had passed between them. I could not read their silent language with their fluency, but I could feel the weight of it, the significance, the depth of whatever understanding had just been shared. Later, when Ibrahim walked me to the edge of their compound, I asked him what had happened in that moment. He was quiet for a long time before answering. She told me that she is tired, he said finally. Not the temporary tired that sleep can cure. The deep tired that comes at the end of a long life. She told me that she is ready to rest, and that she hopes I will not be far behind her. What did you say back? He smiled, a smile so full of love and sorrow and acceptance that it made my throat tight. I told her that I have been ready since the day we buried Amira, but that I have been waiting for her to go first because I could not bear the thought of her being alone in whatever comes next. I told her that we will walk into that darkness together, as we have walked into everything together. And I told her that these years, these 58 years of growing from strangers to soulmates, have been worth every struggle, every hardship, every moment of suffering. I told her that I would do it all again, exactly the same, if it meant ending up here, with her, watching the sunset in silence. He paused, looking back toward the compound where Sophia was still sitting, her silhouette dark against the fading light. She already knew all of this, of course. She has known for years. But sometimes, even between souls as connected as ours, it is important to say things. Just to be sure. Just to mark the moment. Just to honor what we have built. I left Ibrahim and Sophia the next morning as the first light was breaking over the eastern dunes. Sophia did not come out to say goodbye. Goodbyes, I had learned, were not part of their vocabulary. But as I walked away, I turned back once and saw her standing in the doorway, one hand raised in a gesture that needed no translation. Be well. Travel safely. Remember us. I raised my own hand in response, hoping she could feel the gratitude I could not express in words. Ibrahim accompanied me to the edge of the compound, where my path back to my vehicle began. You understand now, he said. It was not a question. I understand a little, I admitted. Enough to know how much I do not understand. He nodded, apparently satisfied with this answer. That is the beginning of wisdom, he said. Knowing what you do not know. Most people never get that far. We shook hands, his grip surprisingly strong for someone of his age, and then he turned and walked back toward his home, toward Sophia, toward the life they had built in the most unlikely of places. I do not know if they are still alive. The desert keeps its secrets, and news from that region is difficult to obtain. Months have passed since my visit, and I have received no word. But I believe, I have to believe, that they are together, wherever they are. Two people who found in each other the answer to every question, the comfort for every pain, the companionship for every silence. If their story has spoken to you, even without words, I hope you will share your own reflections in the comments below. Tell me about the silent understandings in your own life, the moments when connection transcended language. Tell me about the people who know you so completely that words become unnecessary. And if you are still searching for that kind of connection, do not lose hope. Ibrahim and Sophia started as strangers, forced together by circumstances beyond their control. Their love was not destined. It was built, day by day, through attention and presence and the gradual accumulation of shared experience. It is never too late to begin that building. It is never too late to learn to listen to what is not said. If these stories of extraordinary lives resonate with you, I invite you to continue this journey with us. There are more tales waiting in the forgotten corners of our world, More proof that the human heart is capable of miracles that defy explanation. Until next time, may you find someone worth being silent with. And may that silence say everything that matters.